Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for June 4th, 2022, recorded around 2:50 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about today, including the potential for Tropical Storm Alex to finally get itself a name, as it has now managed to cross Florida and is now on its way to potentially impacting Bermuda. So we'll be talking about what impacts Bermuda could expect and a look at the overall state of the tropics. So let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this afternoon, we notice that we have potential tropical cyclone one. It is still a potential tropical cyclone. This has actually not gotten a designation as a tropical storm yet. And I think everyone was kind of expecting it to get some sort of a designation before it made landfall in Florida this morning. And that has not happened, and it took some of us by surprise because early on we thought that this would for sure be a tropical storm as it approaches, albeit very weak. But it has now crossed Florida, and there is a new circulation beginning to form well to the east of Florida. And this will be moving off towards the north and east over the next several days and could get pretty close here to the island of Bermuda, where there is a tropical storm watch in effect. So we'll take a look at that here right now. So this is the tropical weather outlook and the associated map here for potential tropical cyclone one. Again, right now, the center of the circulation, according to NHC, is sitting right on the coast here of Florida's east coast. And this will be now beginning to move off towards the north and east more rapidly over the next several days. Now, this is expected to become a tropical storm by tomorrow, at least. You can see here its first point has it as a non-tropical area of low pressure, and then eventually this begins to transition into a fully tropical storm as it is now approaching Bermuda. We have a tropical storm watch that is in effect for the island of Bermuda, as this is expected to pass pretty close here to the island. And with the overall size that we're expecting out of this, we could see some impacts lashing the island of Bermuda within the next 2 to 3 days. After that point, this is expected to then transition back into a post-tropical cyclone as it begins its journey off generally towards the high latitudes in the Atlantic. So what impacts do we really expect, really? What is to be expected for Florida? Well, we still expect a moderate threat for flooding, and that is mainly caused by the over 15 inches of rain that we've had in spots over the last couple of hours, really coming from last night in through the day today. We've had 10 to 15 inches of rain, close to almost 2 feet of rain in South Florida. So there is still a moderate risk for flooding with any additional storms and rainfall that can come through this area. Storm surge, that threat has all ended, but there is still the threat, a low threat for wind and tornadoes here. Again, the wind damage threat, any stronger storms, there will still be a risk for stronger storms and tornadoes today, as there is still some shear left in the atmosphere, but those will be quickly diminishing. Those chances will be quickly diminishing as we approach nighttime here. So these risks are really only around for a little while longer, and then the flooding risk tomorrow will be dropping almost to no threat as we begin to see those floodwaters start to recede from there. Now, if we take a look here at the visible satellite imagery, a closer zoomed in look here, what we're able to tell is that very disorganized system, very disorganized. There's several areas of low pressure, and you can kind of see how some of these areas have been spinning over Florida. You can kind of see one here that is over Lake Okeechobee. This was an old low-level circulation. There's another low-level circulation over here, and then another one trying to form over within this convective cloud mass closer to the island of the Bahamas here. And that is what we're going to be watching for additional development over the next 12 to 24 hours as this begins to move off towards the north and east. Now, we did have a recon plane that was in there earlier today, and this recon plane was able to verify that there was, in fact, a low-level circulation that was here off the coast of Florida. And this low-level circulation is going to dissipate because this is an old circulation, and there's hints that a new circulation could be forming underneath this convective mass. And we notice that there was also a plethora of tropical storm force winds here on the eastern side here in this convective band that has kind of been moving eastward and northeastward over the last several hours. And this convective band has had flight level winds consisting of around 40 to 50 knots, so right around 45 to 55 miles per hour. So we're getting up there in the higher end category, which is why I said any remaining storms that managed to cross the southern Florida peninsula today could put down some damaging wind gust or an isolated tornado or two, but that threat is quickly diminishing as dry air is coming in on the back side of it at this particular point. So where is this next system going to go? Where's the system going to potentially go develop? Well, we saw the track forecast earlier, but now here's why. So on the GFS forecast, we're now looking at 500 millibars in the atmosphere. So 18,400 feet in the atmosphere is where we're looking roughly. Not consistent all the way across the world, but this is roughly the altitude in which we're looking at. So midway up there. And we notice that we have a pretty strong area of low pressure that is stretching all the way from Canada through Newfoundland and out into the high Atlantic seas. And this big trough, there's two areas of distinct low pressure, one here south of Greenland and one up here that is in the Canadian prairies. And these two areas of low pressure are creating a very big weakness within the pressure fields. Basically, there is a strong gravitation for anything such as a tropical system to be moving northward because of this weakness here. So this is going to persist for a while, and in fact we get this next low here to kind of dive down and move eastward, and that's going to kick our system generally northeastward. And so this is not really a threat to turn back towards the coast. And by hour 72 here, by hour 66 and 72, we notice that finally we get a ridge that comes in here, but it's going to be too late as our system is somewhere right in about this region, and we'll be generally moving off towards the north and east here and away from any landmass. So we're not really expecting this to turn back into the United States or the Canadian Maritimes. This should stay well away from land except for Bermuda. If we take a look here at the H4 forecast using the 10-meter wind field, we can see that, again, this system is going to remain relatively disorganized. If we actually take a look here at one of the reasons for that, we can jump up to the 200 millibar wind here, and we notice that while the pressures are lower down in the low 990s, we notice that there's still a lot of shear coming out of the southwesterly direction here. And the shear is not planning to let up at any particular time. But the only reason really why that this system might in fact actually intensify a little bit is this big jet streak over here towards the north. Basically, a jet streak is just an area where the jet stream is enhanced, and we kind of see that with over about 130 knots of flow up here. And that's actually helping to create diffluence aloft. And like we talked about over the last several days, diffluence aloft, diverging air aloft leads to converging air at the surface and rising air. And so that will lead to a convective feedback loop here where we end up getting a lowering in the pressures as this begins to move towards the north and east. Now, the reason why Bermuda is under a tropical storm watch, we can actually see here that there's a very big radius of wind here. And this is likely now beginning to transition into an extratropical mid-latitude cyclone rather than a tropical cyclone. But if we take a look here, that wind field is generally over for about 320 miles-ish of range. And that is a very wide, expansive area. So while the actual circulation center will probably pass way north of Bermuda, there is a threat that the island of Bermuda could sustain tropical storm conditions as a result of that. And if we take a look here at the relative humidity as well, again, this is the island of Bermuda right in here, we notice that we have a lot of rainfall and a lot of moisture that is piling around on the north side of this, while on the backside, like we've been talking about over the last several days, this thing is just getting blasted by shear. So this thing will certainly have the potential to bring some impacts to the island of Bermuda. And if we take a look here at the upper ocean heat content, there really is not a lot here to kind of work within, but there will be enough for some intensification from extratropical processes. All right. That being said, hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.